Alright, so hi grade 12, good day. I am Miss Maranath L. Malubag, aka the Ayla Malubag na nakikipag-communicate sa inyo through Messenger every day. And not every day, every time na we have discussion. So for today, hayaan nung i-elaborate ko sa inyo yung itong guidelines sa paggawa ng research proposal na isa sa mga major requirements ninyo under the subject inquiries, investigation, and immersion. Okay, so una sa lahat, ano ba ang research proposal? Iba ba to doon sa tinatawag nating research paper o kaya ay research study? At ang sagot ay opo, iba po ito doon. So if one is planning to conduct a research study, kailangan mo muna mag-craft o gumawa ng isang research proposal. So it's simply a structured formal document that explains what you plan to research, which is yun nga yung research topic, and it also talks about why it is worth researching. So yun yung justification kung bakit yun ang napili mong topic, and the third one is how you plan to investigate it. So yun yung sa research methodology natin, which is yung sa chapter 3, okay? Okay, so the purpose of the research proposal is to convince your research evaluators that your research na pinaplano ay suitable and manageable. Kung kaya ba itong makonduct within a given period of time and limited resources. Kasi halimbawa, sa case ninyo, sa tingin ba ninyo ay nako-convince o mapapaniwala ninyo ang panel of evaluators na suitable yung gagawin ninyong research kung ang i-research ninyo ay hindi related sa agriculture, wherein ang hinihingi ko sa inyo ay dapat ay agriculture related ang topic ninyo. And at the same time, dapat mapapaniwala rin ninyo sila na manageable ang inyong pinaplanong i-research. Halimbawa, given that the last day of classes ninyo ay June 5, diba? And your research proposal defense is next week pa. So, sa tingin ba ninyo ay matatapos ninyong i-conduct o isagawa ang inyong planong research? So, dapat oo. So, dapat tandaan ninyo yung dalawang yun. Dapat ninyong makonvince ang panel of evaluators na ang inyong research na pinaplano ay suitable and manageable. Okay? So, the most important word here is to convince, diba? So, in other words, your research proposal needs to sell your research idea to whoever is going to approve it. Which in your case ay ang mag-a-approve ay ang tatlong evaluators to be announced soon, okay? So, if it doesn't convince them of its suitability and manageability, you'll need to revise and resubmit your research proposal. And that will cost you valuable time, which will either delay the start of your research or it into its time allowance, which is very bad news to your end. Kaya dapat ngayong nagpaplano pa lamang kayo ng inyong gagawing research ay maging sure na agad kayo at maging confident kayo na tama yung inyong pinaplano. Okay? So, is that clear? Sana ay maliwanag ninyong nakuha yung idea ng research proposal at kung ano ang dapat ninyong gawin upang gawing matibay itong pundasyon ng inyong gagawin o pinaplanong research. Okay? So, as to the schedule of your research proposal defense, i-move na natin ito sa May 12 sa Wednesday. Okay? So, 8:30 a.m. sa saktong class schedule natin para wala tayong masagasaan na ibang subjects. Okay? So, okay ba sa inyo yun? Yung schedule na yun? So, okay man o hindi, kailangan nating i-push yung schedule na yun kasi sabi ko nga sa inyo ay wala tayong choice. Wala na tayong ibang oras. Kaya, we have to push your proposal defense on May 12. Okay? Okay, so first, dito muna tayo sa research title. Okay, so hindi ba kapag gusto nating pumili ng isang babasahin, ang pangunahin nating tinitingnan o binabasa ay yung title. Tama? At minsan pa nga ay doon lamang tayo bumabase at hindi na doon sa content. Kasi ayaw nating masayang ang oras natin. Ganon. So, ganon din syempre pagdating sa research study. Kaya, when the panel of evaluators notice that your research title is interesting and descriptive, then malaking points na agad yun para magustuhan nila o mabigyan pansin nila yung inyong research proposal. Pero kung yung research title mo ay hindi kaakit-akit at hindi descriptive, it will eventually be rejected by the evaluators kahit pa sabihin natin na yung content ang mas mahalaga. But no, hindi yun nag-work sa ganong scenario. At yung research paper must have a strong research title. Yun talaga yun. So that shows the importance of coming up with a good research paper when drafting or a good research title when drafting your research proposal. Okay, so now, before we look at how to title a research paper, let's look at a research title example that illustrates why a good research paper should have a strong title. Okay, so first, imagine that you want to research meditation and agriculture, and you want to find out if any studies have shown that meditation makes farmers better in their agricultural performance. Okay, so first, syempre, meron na agad tayong keywords doon, yung farming, meditation, and agriculture. Okay, so then you drafted 4 research titles, which is itong 4 na to. Okay, so we have here benefits of meditation for agricultural professions, a quantitative investigation. And second, why mindful farmers make the best contributions to agricultural system. Third, we have farming gurus for from smart farming towards agricultural success, a quantitative report on how meditation can improve farmers' performance. Right, so as it can be observed here dito sa 4 na to, these 4 titles give very different impressions, right? Yung title 1, it describes the topic and the method of the study. Dahil binanggit na yung benefits of meditation para sa mga agriculturist, which is the topic, and the quantitative investigation na siyang method na gagamitin sa pagconduct ng study. Pero it's not particularly catchy. Hindi siya nakakakuha ng attention ng reader. Tama? While yung title 2 naman, it somehow describes the topic, but it does not give any information about the method of the study. Parang ipinahihiwatig sa title na it is simply a theoretical or opinionated piece. Parang base lang sa opinion yung content ng ganitong sulatin kapag binasa yung ganitong klaseng title. Okay? Well, the third one naman, farming gurus. So, masasabi natin it is somewhat catchier, pero it gives almost no information about a research study. Walang ibang information or idea na nakukuha dito sa ganitong klaseng title. Tama? And lastly, yung sa title 4, it begins with a catchy main title and it is followed by a subtitle that gives information about the content and the method used to conduct the study. So, kaya with this information, with these examples, as you can see, title 4 has all the characteristics of a good research title. Do you agree? Okay. Okay, so now let's take a look on the characteristics of a good research title. So first we have here, your research title should be interesting to the reader. So, to the readers. So, ayan, gaya ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, kailangang mahook agad ang readers sa research title pa lamang para magkaroon rin siya ng interest na basahin o malaman ang tungkol sa ginawa mong pag-aaral. Okay? So, second, we have the research title should predict the content of the research paper. Alright, so, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na when someone reads your research title, dapat ay makuha agad nila yung complete idea ng iyong research study na gagawin. So, sa inyong research proposal, it needs to clearly articulate your research topic through your formulated title. Okay, so it needs to be specific and unambiguous, yung hindi magulo. So, para maging maliwanag exactly kung ano yung pinaplano mong i-research and in what context, okay? At para ma-attain natin yung ganitong good research title, it must answer the following questions. So, here, what are you trying to investigate? What are you trying to find out or determine or discover? Oh, so this talks about the what questions, or in other words, your research topic. Okay? So, syempre, hindi dapat mawala sa title yung scope ng topic mo. Okay? So, next, who are the respondents or subjects of the study? Okay, so, kailangan makuha sa research title kung sino yung involved na gagawin, yung kung sino yung involved doon sa gagawin mong pag-aaral. Pero syempre hindi nyo i-enumerate isa-isa kung sino-sino sila. You have to specify the people involved generally. For example, your respondents ay farmers. Okay, so you will not mention them as farmers lang talaga. Say for example, in the case of Mr. Alejandro's proposal, ang kanyang respondents ay farmers in Barangay Sihi, Benavista, pero hindi lahat. Then, paano natin yun i-specify at i-address? Okay, so we have to address it as the selected farmers in Barangay Sihi, Benavista. Okay, so mapapansin niyo doon yung word na selected. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lahat ng farmers ng Sihi Benavista, kundi selected lamang. Pinili lamang ni Mr. Alejandro yung kanyang respondents. Okay? So, kaya kailangan rin talagang ipasok yung context ng where. Kaya, lastly, ito, kailangan ding masagot sa title ang tanong na, where is the research locale or research setting of the research study? Okay. Alright, next. Of course, every research proposal should have an abstract because it forms the reader's initial impression of your work. Kasi after the title, ang sunod na binabasa at sinecheck ng readers and also ng evaluators, syempre, ay ang abstract dahil doon nakapaloob ang summary ng inyong ginawang proposal. Okay? So, therefore, this part plays a big role sa pag-approve o pag-disapprove ng inyong research proposal. Yung ibang reviewers, yung ibang evaluators kasi ay madalas na yung abstract lamang ang binabasa at hindi na binabasa yung buong paper. Lalo na kung yung research proposal na yun ay isang research proposal application para mapondohan. Kaya, really, this is the most important single element in the proposal. Okay? So, kaya, here, this section should present the essential meaning of your research proposal. Hence, in order to do that, the abstract should summarize the significance or the need of the research study, the hypothesis and major objectives of the project, the procedures to be followed to accomplish the objectives, and also the potential impact of your work. Okay, so and though it appears first, the research abstract should be edited and written last after you have written the chapter 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so kasi nga it contains the summary of your proposal. Hindi mo naman siya masusulat agad-agad without completing the first chapters, which is the chapter 1, 2, and 3. Okay? Okay, so now, sa first chapter, the introduction part. So, in this subject, it requires you, as the researcher, to include these subparts: the background of the study, its significance, the statement of the problem, the scope and the limitations, the section of definition of terms, and the conceptual or theoretical framework you will incorporate in your research study. Okay, so to scrutinize them, let's move to the next slides. Okay, so first we have the background of the study. Okay, so in this part, you should describe the existing and prevailing problem situation based on your experience. At yung scope noon ay pwedeng global, maaaring national, regional, and local. Pero mas better sana kung hanggang national lamang At wag na muna kayong umabot sa global. Mas maganda nga ni ay sa local muna kayo mag-focus para dito muna kayo magsisimula sa lugar natin. At tama naman yung pinaprepare ninyo ngayon, which is nag-focus lamang kayo sa inyong barangay. Okay? So then next, you as the proponent should give a strong justification for selecting the research problem in your capacity as a researcher. So being a student in the School of Agriculture, being part of the organization or systems na related sa agriculture, and syempre having the desire and concern to improve that systems. So this section addresses why your research topic is important in the field of agriculture. So it will answer the question, so what? Kaya you really have to justify talaga kung ano yung essence o kahalagahan ng topic na napili ninyo. Kasi, so, tatanong ng evaluator sa inyo, bakit ito yung napili ninyong topic? So, sasabihin ninyo, kasi mahalaga po ito. So, sasagot ng, so what? Ano naman kung mahalaga to? Kaya, you just have to justify na yung kahalagahan ng pagpili nitong research topic ninyo na to. So, ayun nga, ang kahalagahan, yung ipapoint out ninyo din, yung kahalagahan nito sa agriculture system. Yung kahalagahan nito sa community, kahalagahan, let's say, sa business o sa ikinabubuhay ng mga mamamayan, at kung saan pa maaaring makita yung kanyang kahalagahan. Kailangan ninyong ma-explore yun. Kasi kailangan ninyong ma-comprehend sa background of the study, yun lahat. Okay? So, and then lastly, you should also link and relate the background of the study doon sa pinapropose na main research problem at pati na rin doon sa sub-research questions. Okay? So, in this section, again, you should provide the existing status of that research topic you chose. Okay? So, particularly, with regard to social or economic issues or kung saang significant aspect ninyo man siya gustong i-relate. Basta mahalaga at may point palagi. Okay? So, and then, you should identify the gap in knowledge or activities that must be filled to move to to move that your research is worth it. Para makita talaga ng mga evaluators na you have to push or continue your research proposal para ma-fill yung gap na yun. Okay? So, kaya with that, you have to provide sufficient details about the research topic. And that is because of 3 main reasons. Una is to make clear what the research problem is and what has been accomplished exactly. Pangalawa ay to give evidence of your own competence in the field. And lastly, para maipakita mo why the previous work needs to be continued. Okay? Maliwanag ba yun? So, as we touched on earlier, it's not good to simply propose a research topic. You need to justify why your topic is original and important. So, in other words, what makes it unique? Okay? So, what gap in the current literature does it fill? So, if it's simply a rehash of the existing research, kung ginaya lang exactly ang mga old conducted researchers, it's probably not going to get approved because it needs to be fresh talaga yung inyong gagawing research. But yeah, originality alone is not enough, syempre. You also need to justify why your proposed topic is important. In other words, what value will it add to the world if you manage to find answers to your research questions? Okay, so basta, what you have to always remember when you are crafting your research proposal is, remember that it's not enough for a topic to simply be unique. It needs to be useful and value creating, and you need to convey that value in your proposal, particularly dito sa section ng background of the study. Okay? Okay, so next we have the significance of the study. Okay, so this part is the written statement that explains why your research is needed. So it's again a justification of the importance of your topic, of your research topic. Okay, so it should state its contribution to knowledge and to new knowledge and how others will benefit from your research work. This could be in the form of new knowledge in the field, a check on the major findings of other studies, a check on the validity of findings in a different population, either also a check on trends over time, and a check on the other findings using different methodology. Okay, so it discusses the importance of the study to the society, to the country, the government, the community, the institution, the School of Agriculture, the agency concerned, the Marinduque State College, the Department of Agriculture, let's say. Okay, so the developers and also to the researchers and also pwede rin sa mga teachers, agriculture teachers. Okay, so also this part expounds the impact of your research work on the field of agriculture, to community, to the government, ganun nga, especially to the agriculture sector, to science and technology, and also to the ongoing researchers who conduct the same researches as yours. Okay? So, when writing this section, first, diba, na-identify nyo na yung gap in the existing knowledge na meron yung topic na napili ninyo. So, nalaman ninyo na doon pa lamang yung areas that are poorly understood. Then, after that, think about the significance or importance of your research study from two perspectives. Okay, so una, what is the general contribution of your research on the field of agriculture? Okay, so pangalawa, what specific contribution will you make to the knowledge and who does this benefit the most? Okay, so mga farmers ba, mga pig raisers ba, mga researchers ba, mga agriculture students ba, or agriculture teachers, mga ganon. Okay? So this section should be written shorter than the background of the study. Naka-itemized pati ito, naka-number lang. Okay? So for example, like ito, yung aking thesis last year pa pala. So I found that my research work will benefit 4 main persons or group of persons and institutions or organizations. So I identify them and nilagay yung reason. Ito, yung reason kung paano makaka-benefit sa kanila yung ginawa kong research. Okay, so ganun din yung gagawin ninyo. Identify ninyo kung sino-sino yung makaka-benefit dito sa ginawa ninyong, sa gagawin ninyong research, at ilalagay rin ninyo doon syempre kung paano ito nakaka-benefit sa kanila. Okay, so aside from that, doon sa naka-itemize na benefits, syempre you have to determine din kung ano yung sabi ko nga kanina, yung general contribution ng inyong research sa field ng agriculture. Okay, so dalawa yan ha. Yung sabi ko kanina, yung una yung general contribution ng gagawin yung research sa field of agriculture. Pangalawa ay yung naka-itemized na benefits sa iba't ibang tao or grupo ng tao, or it may be agencies or institutions. Okay? Okay, so the first and most important step in any research is to identify the research problem. So that is what you as a researcher wants to solve and what questions you wish to answer. Okay? So yung ginaganon natin na research problem ay yung area of concern, yung gap na meron doon sa field ng topic na pinili mo na kailangan talaga ng further understanding and investigation. Kaya to do that investigation, nagpo-formulate tayo ng statement of the problem. Yun yung pinapa-formulate ko sa inyong mga tanong. That is usually in question form nga ni. Okay? So, yun ang kailangan tandaan. So, it is used in research work as a claim that outlines the problem addressed by your research study. So, pag gagawa ka ng statement of the problem, itanong mo sa sarili mo, ano yung problema o yung gap na kailangang i-address ng gagawin kong research. Okay, so, yun. Kasi ang ultimate goal talaga ng statement of the problem is to transform a generalized problem into a targeted and well-defined problem. Yung kayang i-resolve through focused research and careful decision-making. Kaya, writing a statement of the problem should help you clearly identify the purpose of your research study na ipopropose ninyo. So, kadalasan nga ay yun yung magsuserve as the basis for the introductory section of your final proposal na mag-direct sa reader's attention quickly to the issues that your proposed research will address, and it will provide also the readers with a concise statement of the proposed research itself. Okay, so a statement of the problem need not to be long and elaborate. So 1 page is more than enough para sa statement of the problem. Okay? So to summarize, there should be an introductory statement which reflects the main problem of the study. Sub-problem should not be stated in such a way that is not answerable by either yes, no, when, and where. Okay? So the sub-problem should include all the independent and moderate variables which are reflected in the conceptual framework. Okay? So sub-problems should be arranged in logical order and extensive in coverage and must be mutually exclusive in its dimensions. Okay, so if the research is quantitative, avoid the how questions. Okay, so is that clear po? Alright, so next, the scope and the limitations of research paper. Okay, so it defines the topic and boundaries of the research problem you are going to investigate. So, isa-isahin muna natin itong dalawang to. Yung scope, dinadetalya nito yung kung gaano kalalim yung i-explore sa iyong research study through the research questions na gagawin ninyo, and also through the parameters, which is yung inyong research population, research locale, and even the time frame, ganun. So on the other hand, yung the limitations of study naman, yun yung mga factors and variables na hindi mo i-include sa iyong gagawing investigation o pag-aaral o pag-research. So in other words, they are the boundaries that you set in terms of study duration, your population size, and even the type of participants, mga ganon. And I am sure na may tanong kayo at the back of your mind na, the limitation ba talaga, ma'am? O baka naman limitation? Okay. So, well, yes, the limitation talaga ang hinihingi ko dito sa inyong research paper na gagawin at hindi limitation. At may pagkakaiba kasing dalawa eh. Pagkakaiba nila is yung the limitations, tumutukoy ito sa boundaries ng research study na gagawin mo. Kaya naka-base ito sa yung decision as a researcher. Decision of what to include and what to exclude sa yung study na gagawin. So it allows you also to to narrow your study to make it more manageable and relevant to what you are trying to prove. Okay? Then yung limitations naman, it relates to the validity and reliability ng iyong studying gagawin. So it talks about the characteristics of the research design or yung methodology that are out of your control pero makaka-impluwensya ng sobra doon sa yung research findings. Kaya with that, experts have to determine pa the internal and external validity of your research study that are considered potential weaknesses sa isang research work. Kaya, in other words, limitations are what the researcher cannot do, which is outside the researcher's control, and the limitations are what the researcher will not do. So, yun yung elements that outside of the boundaries na sinaset ng researchers. Kaya for this major requirement of yours, you have to identify the scope and the limitations of your study and not its limitations. Okay? So to effectively start writing your study, the limitations, ang tip ko lang is you may write beginning with this study will not cover ganyan-ganyan, or this study will not be limited to ganito, and also maaari din naman the following will be excluded from this study, ganyan-ganyan. So pag sa scope naman, maaari nyo siyang isulat with this 3 prompts. Okay, so this study will be focused on ganito ganyan, or maaari din this study will cover the ganito ganyan, and maaari din this study will aim to ganito ganyan. Okay, so mga ganun lang, mga simpleng sentences lang, pero andun yung idea at andun yung plano talaga ninyo sa inyong gagawing research. Okay? So, is that clear po? So, to summarize, this section explains the nature, coverage, and the time frame of the study. It briefly presents the subject area of investigation, the place, the time period, or school year covered. Okay, so it discusses the variables included in the study and the exclusion of other variables which are expected to be included. And also it indicates the extent of capability of results arising from the sampling population. Okay? Okay, so your research proposal will likely include terms that are not widely known outside of your discipline, na usually ay hindi alam ng mga readers or hindi maintindihan ng mga readers na hindi knowledgeable about agriculture. So, this part of definition of terms include terms, particularly theoretical constructs, yung formulas, mga operational definitions that differ from colloquial definitions, yung school of thoughts and discipline, specific acronyms, yung mga ganon. So, ino-offer sa readers ng section na ito yung list of definitions ng certain terms. So, the terms should be operationally defined to facilitate the full understanding of the research study by the readers. So, you have to avoid getting meaning from the dictionary. Okay? Again, avoid getting meaning from the dictionary. Kasi, the terms to be operationally defined are those used throughout the study and may be a word or a phrase usually taken from the title and the statement of the problem. Okay, so, yung definitions na ilalagay ninyo dito sa section na ito ay ibabase ninyo doon so kung paano ninyo ito ginamit sa inyong research paper at hindi base sa definitions from the dictionary. Okay? So, ito rin na kailangan nyo i-consider. The term should be arranged in alphabetical order and the definition should be stated in complete sentences. Okay, so again, arranged in alphabetical order and the definitions should be stated in complete sentences. Okay? Alright, so importante rin yung itong section na ito. Kaya dapat ay maging careful rin kayo sa pagbuo ng part na to because how you define such terms could considerably affect how the research the research readers understands your research work. So doon nakabase sa definition of terms na section na yun kung paano nila mag-gets yung inyong research paper. Okay? Okay, so next. So there are two kinds of framework used when writing the background of the study. They are theoretical and conceptual framework. Gaya na na-introduce ko sa inyo last time through the guidelines, no? And the module. So, but for this subject requirement, conceptual framework lamang naman ang i-apply ninyo sa research work ninyo. So, yun na lang muna ang aking i-discuss particularly, ha? Okay, so the conceptual framework steers the whole research activity. Okay, so ito yung nagsisilbing map or yung map na mag-guide sa inyo para ma-attain mo yung ini-aim ng iyong research study at para ma-continue mo yung gagawin mong pag-aaral or investigation. Excuse me. So, it maps out the actions required in the course of your research study. So, given your previous knowledge of the researcher's point of view and your observations on the subject of research. Kaya hindi lang kayo basta-basta magsusulat ng mga parts ng research paper na to. Kailangan nyo rin magbasa at magbasa at magbasa ng mga related research studies. Okay? So, sa madaling sabi, ang inyong bubuuhing conceptual framework ay ang iyong understanding doon sa variables ng iyong study at kung paano ito magkaka-connect. Okay? So, kaya dapat i-identify nyo muna yung mga variables that are required sa iyong gagawing investigation. Right? So, look at this example. So, this was my constructed conceptual framework back then when I was college, also for my thesis. So, I used this IPO technique. So, ito yung tawag na dito, IPO technique. Ganito na rin lang yung gawin ninyo, ha? So, you have to identify lang the input, the process, and the output of your research work. So, ayan. So, I made a schematic diagram which shows the variables included in my study. And, arrows or lines should be properly placed and connected between boxes para maipakita natin ng tama yung relasyon ng bawat variables. Kasi lahat ng nasa diagram na yan, lahat yan may ibig sabihin. Kaya, we should be careful constructing this part then. Okay? So, then, after that, may research paradigm dito sa baba. So, it will allow you to elaborately explain your diagram. So, i-interpret nyo lang kung anong ibig sabihin ng ginawa ninyong conceptual framework. So, okay? I hope it's clear on your end. At nandito na tayo sa chapter 2, which is the review of related literature. So, ayan, ito na. Kaya, kailangan nyo talagang magbasa ng related research works is also for this part of your paper. So, but literature review should not be, it should be selective and critical. Yung sulat ninyo dito sa part na to. Kasi hindi lahat ng nabasa ninyo ay kailangan ninyong ilagay sa section na to. Of course, sa mga evaluators ay ayaw nila magbasa ng super dami or voluminous working bibliography. Dahil syempre marami rin silang ginagawa. Ayaw nilang maubos yung time nila sa pagbabasa ng napakaraming review of related literature. Kaya they only want to know the pertinent or the important works you have to or you have identified based on your readings. At syempre, kailangang mabasa din nila doon sa part ng RRL, yung evaluation mo or yung opinion mo from those readings na ginawa mo. Okay? So, here, your discussion for this part should lead the readers to a clear impression of how you will build upon what has already been done and how your work differs from theirs. Kasi gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, mahalagang i-establish mo what is original in your approach, what circumstances have changed since meron ng mga related researchers na ginawa dati, and also what is unique about the time and place of your proposed research. Okay, so to summarize, yeah, so to summarize, okay, so here, your RRL should include research findings, published or unpublished, theories and principles formulated by experts or authorities in some field of discipline, and of course, ideas or opinions of experts contained in books, pamphlets, magazines, and periodicals. Okay, so it should be written in terms of the purpose of the study. Okay, wait. Yeah, so it should give more weight to study with more authoritative as evaluated, and it should give reference to primary rather than secondary sources. Okay, so it should be organized thematically to conform with the specific problems, syempre, and it should be synthesized such that evidence from all the studies reviewed would get an overall understanding of the state of knowledge in the problem area. Okay? Alright. So, the third chapter, which is the last chapter ng inyong gagawing research proposal, is the methodology. Okay. Alright, so it's all good and well to have a great topic that is original and important, but you're not going to convince anyone to approve your proposal without discussing the practicalities. Okay, so in other words, you have to plan also the methodology you are going to apply in your study. So here it discusses the research locale, the research design, population sampling or respondents of the study, the research instrument, and the statistical treatment of data. Okay, so to elaborate more, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so first we have the research locale. So this talks about the place or the setting of the study that shows the target population. So meaning, ang nakapaloob dito ay yung lugar kung saan makikita yung inyong mga respondents. So it briefly describes the place where the study will be conducted. So just make sure na ang i-include nyo lang ay yung important features ng lugar that have the bearing on your research study. Wag yung hindi naman importante. Okay? So next, we have the research design. So based on the modules which I provided you, there are lots of research design na dapat na maaari nating gamitin sa ating research study, right? Pero dito sa major requirement nyo under my subject, you will choose lang either quantitative research design or qualitative research design or quanti-quali research design, or yun yung tinatawag nating mixed method. Okay? So again, pili lang kayo sa tatlo. Qualitative research design, quantitative research design, or mixed method, which is yung pinaghalong quantitative and qualitative design. Okay? So, yeah. What is research design? So, before you begin your paper, you need to decide how you will plan to design your study. So, kasi ito yung magiging overall strategy mo doon sa different components ng iyong research work. So, ito, in a coherent and logical way, syempre. Kaya when you ensure first the research design you will apply, you will effectively address the research problem probably. Okay, because it constitutes the blueprint for the data collection na gagawin ninyo, and as well as doon sa pag-analyze nyo ng data. Basta you have to note that the research problem determines the type of design you should use and not the other way around. Okay? So third, we also have, of course, the research population and sample. Okay, so this describes the target population and the sample frame, and it specifies the sampling techniques used and how the sample size is determined. Okay. So research population ay it is generally a large collection of individuals or objects that is the main focus of a research study or investigation. So sa madaling sabi, sila yung respondents sa kanila manggagaling yung data na i-analyze mo and ipapresent mo later on sa chapter 4 and 5. Okay? So, hindi ba it is for the benefit of the population kaya tayo nagkakandak ng research studies. Pero considering that there are large sizes of populations, syempre, researchers often cannot test every individuals in the population because it's too expensive and very time-consuming kung lahat sila ay i-involve natin sa ating study. And that is the reason why bakit natin kailangan mag-rely doon sa sampling techniques. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag na research sample. Okay, so yung sampling, that is the process of selecting representative samples of individuals from the population. Kasi nga 'di ba, kung masyadong maraming individuals sa iyong target na population at limited lamang yung time and resources mo, so you have to select among them lamang. Kaya research something is really an important tool for research studies. Okay, so as you have read sa inyong module then, there are lots of sampling techniques din. Kaya you have to identify kung ano yung inyong gagamitin, kung ano yung gagamitin ninyong research sample base sa pangangailangan ng inyong research study at base na rin syempre sa inyong oras at resources. Okay? Alright, so second to the last part, research instrument. So this is the tool used to obtain, measure, and analyze data from subjects around your research topic. Alright, so malalaman at makakapag-decide kayo kung anong instrument ang inyong gagamitin base doon sa type ng study na inyong ikakandak. Kung ito nga ba ay quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method. Okay? So this section explains the specific type of research instrument you will use in your research study, such as the questionnaire, checklist, questionnaire, checklist, yung pinagsamang questionnaire and checklist nga. Teacher-made test, mga ganun, mga standardized instruments which either adopted o hiniram with permission doon sa author. At pwede ring ito, yung structured interview. Okay, so you just have to mention here sa part na to kung ano yung gagamitin mong instrument sa pag-gather ng data. Okay? So, and syempre, the parts of the instruments you will use should be explained and what bits of information will derive. Okay? And lastly, the statistical treatment of data. Okay, so statistical treatment is when you apply a statistical method to a data set to draw a meaning from it. So, as a researcher, you must have a basic understanding of statistical treatment if you want your study to be reliable. Okay, so that's because ang realidad niyan ay designing experiments and collecting data are only a small part of conducting a research. The other components are the analysis, interpretation, and presentation ng data na siyang gagawin ninyo later on sa chapter 4 and 5. At magagawa nyo lamang ang mga ito kung may statistical treatment kayong nakahandang gamitin para sa data na ginather ninyo. And that is just as important, if not more important, as this is. Okay? So this part of the paper explains how each statistical treatment is used in the treatment of data you will gather. Okay? So, and if the research instrument included options are scaled, explain how each scale is given the weight, its interval, and class limits. So, yung scale na sinasabi dito is kapag yung questionnaire or instrument na gagamitin mo to gather data ay yung, for example, may Likert scale, yung mga ganun. Yung ang choices na isasagot mo ay let's say for example, very satisfied, satisfied, moderate, unsatisfied, poorly unsatisfied, yung mga ganun mga skill. Okay? Okay, so and finally, the bibliography. So to simply put the meaning of bibliography, the bibliography is the list of references that is created at the end of your research proposal. So I will require you to list all the sources that you will use in your in creating your research proposal through the APA format. Okay? Again, through the APA format. So research niyo kung paano isulat ang isang citation through APA format. Okay? So, yung bibliography ay manggagaling sa mga binasa ninyong references such as books, maaaring magazines, yung mga newspapers, periodicals, journals, thesis or dissertations, published man to o hindi, basta wag niyong kalimutan yung date, ha? Okay, so and pwede rin naman yung mga monographs, mga speeches, mga video speech, and maaari din from modules, basta reliable ito. Yun yung kailangan ninyong tandaan. Dapat yung pagkukuhaan ninyo ng references, information ay reliable. And pwede rin from the internet, basta reliable. So kahit saan, basta you just have to list them sa inyong bibliography. Okay? So, in the choice of bibliographic materials, you should consider its relatedness to the research problem, and of course, you should consider to the inclusion of recent publication. So, yung mga materials na published na gagamitin ninyo ay dapat magsisimula at least year 2015. Yung mga year 2014 and pababa na ang published year, hindi na yun pwede. Okay? So, 2015, 2016, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 2021, yun lamang ang inyong maaaring kuhaan ng information na maaari ninyong isama sa inyong research proposals and even research as a whole when you analyze and interpret your data. Okay? So, everything, I hope everything is clear to your end, guys. So, if you have questions pa, raise it to our group chat para ma-address natin sa group chat para kung tanong man yun ang isa, tanong man din ng iba, di masasagot ko siya in one answer. Sa isang sagutan lang. Okay? So, ayun. Thank you so much for listening and I hope makakatulong ito sa inyong pagsulat ng inyong research proposal. Okay? So, thank you.